Hello, welcome back to 340 Paddler, and today I want to talk about training for the finish. Now, this will be one of a few training videos I'm going to be doing. I'll be doing one for about a 60-hour finish and possibly for a 50-hour ballpark finish, as well as some others looking at cardio, strength, intervals, etc. But this is geared towards primarily rookies who haven't done the 340 before. You're nervous about what you're getting into, and you want to have at least some kind of foundation when you're going into the race. Now, I should say we're just shooting for a finish here. My idea is around a 70-hour finish, give or take, which would be sometime early Friday morning. And these are techniques that I used for my first couple of 340s, finishing in 78 hours and 76 hours. Although, to be fair, I spent about 16 hours on shore those years, so you could definitely go faster with some checkpoint discipline. So let's get into it. First of all, a disclaimer: I'm not a trained doctor, medical professional, physical therapist, trainer, or naval engineer. I don't train bears to dance. I am just a paddler and a professor in the humanities, and we all know what that means. I'm barely employed and don't have a lot of extra income. Getting past that, let's talk about when to start. Of course, it's particularly cold out. I'm recording this early in January, looking outside. It's -4 degrees, a nice sheen of ice on the water, which I can't see from my apartment, but I imagine that it's there anyway. You could start this now. You could start this once we have ice off, and you would probably get scaled results there. So if you started now, you'd get better results than if you start in March or April. In my case, I usually started in April. And this would be a time that you don't want to start training about the point where you're putting your boat in the water at caw. But one other little detail that I forgot to mention: you can do the 340 without training, because the 340 is really 10% physical training and 90% mental. One year I did, in 2013, do the race and complete it with about 2 miles of training. Now, that hurt. That was a lot of suffering. Don't do that. Don't be me. Moving on. In the boat. Now, most of your training for this sort of trying to just finish training is going to be in the boat. And there's a reason for that. For many of you, especially if you're rookies, you may not have a lot of miles in your boat to begin with. So I want you to get used to sitting in the boat, seeing it for longer and longer periods of time, what the boat's going to do under different conditions, etc. Now, there are two parts to in the boat training. This is the first of two. First of all, what I want you to do is about once or twice a week, building up to twice a week, I want you to do 1 to 2 hours in the boat. And this is where you're going to focus on technique, making sure that you're planting your paddle blade as close to your foot as possible, that you're pulling out by the time it gets to your hip. All these sort of technique ideas. They're great videos on YouTube by Greg Barton and others that go into technique. This is also a time to experiment. Get used to where you're going to put your water, that sort of thing, and what it does in terms of balance. This is also a time to push it and see what you can really do. Then you have your long day. And the long day is basically to get you used to sitting in the boat for long periods of time, because you might be in the boat for 6 to 8 hours at a crack or longer. So to develop this, you're going to start at about 5 or 10 miles, and that sounds like it's particularly low. But the reason for that is I don't want you getting an overuse injury, a problem in your shoulder or elsewhere, because of suddenly starting at a much higher level. You're going to add 2 or 3 miles every week, or 20 or 30 minutes every week, until you peak at about 6 to 8 hours about 3 weeks before the 340. Those last couple of weeks, you're going to taper down, maybe do 4 hours and 2 hours, the last 2 weekends before the 340. Now, you can definitely go longer. You could plan a 12-hour run, or you could use races to do this, such as Missouri Freedom or the South Dakota Kayak Challenge. Those would definitely work, but I want you to work up to that so that you don't get an injury halfway through the race that pulls you out during the 340. And don't panic about speed. When it comes to speed, the Missouri River is going to add 2.5 to 3 miles an hour to your pace, assuming that you're on flat water, on a lake or something without much of a current. So don't panic about speed at this point. You're mostly just trying to put in the miles, put in distance. Now, in terms of anything extra you can do, the best thing you could do would be some form of cardio. Now, cardiac fitness takes 3 to 6 months to really swing into action, to really see a great deal of benefit. And that's assuming you're starting from nothing. If you're already a runner or something, then you're probably in good shape. It's also going to teach you discipline. That's what the long day is going to do as well. It's going to get you used to, I don't want to go and do my workout today. And then you get out and you do it. The same way you're going to be sitting at Cooper's Landing going, I just want another plate of pad thai. And your ground crew hopefully is going to say, nope, eat in the boat, get out of here, go, I don't want to see you, go. Don't even look at me until Herman. So any kind of cardio, rowing, running, biking, swimming, anything like that. If you've never done much cardio before or you haven't for quite some time, you'd probably want to start at maybe 10 minutes of cardio and build that up until you get to about 30 minutes. And then you can build from there as far as you want to go. All of this should get you to the finish. Remember, we're building the mental discipline as much as we are a foundation that will hopefully ensure that you don't get injured during the 340. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, quarrels, qualms, quandaries, curse words, please leave them in the comments below. Otherwise, this is 340 Paddler, hoping that you keep your paddle in the water. This video brought to you by the South Dakota Kayak Challenge. We've all heard the term, the first warm wind of spring, and we want to encourage you to experience that in South Dakota. Of course, South Dakota is known as a capital of wind power, where you will feel the wind of change. Some say even punishing winds that you will have to push through, almost breaking the wind. Yes, at South Dakota Kayak Challenge, we encourage you to come and break wind with us. South Dakota Kayak Challenge registration opens January 1st.